Hi, welcome back. Today I'm here to review Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas. Guys, and I had a really mixed experience reading it, so I thought I would get on here and talk to you guys about it. For reference, I am a longtime reader of the Throne of Glass series. I picked up Throne of Glass when there was maybe only like 2 books published in the series, so I've been reading for a long time. I feel like I kind of had a lot invested in the series and in the wrap-up. It's something that I've been reading for a while. And like, let me preface this too by saying, in general, I like Sarah J Maas. I know she's not the perfect writer. I think what she does really well is fantasy romance. I don't think she's really a fantasy author. I think she's a fantasy romance author. That is where she shines, usually. So with that said, you might be wondering, what did I rate Kingdom of Ash? I ended up giving Kingdom of Ash 3.5 stars. And it was actually interesting. I had initially planned on giving it 4 stars, and then I sat down and I wrote my review on Goodreads. And when I was done, I thought, I can't give this 4 stars. I can't. So I got 3.5 stars. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Here's the thing with this book. On the one hand, I do feel like it does a pretty good job of wrapping up the series. I know not everybody was, but I was pretty happy with where all of the characters wound up. I enjoyed most of my experience of reading the book. I think it's a pretty good series ender. But, number one, it's way too long. Way too long. Guys, this book is basically about 1,000 pages long. I don't think it should have been much more than 500 pages. Also, there are way too many perspectives. Oh my goodness, I couldn't even tell you how many perspective characters we have because there are so many of them, and it gets really confusing trying to keep track of all of them. And I've read the entire series, like I know who these people are, but I would be like, wait, what, who's talking and what's happening and where are we again? And then remembering where the people are, because for most of the book we're in like several different locations, and so remembering who's with who, like it got a little much. So I think she should have simplified it. We definitely did not need the number of perspective characters. It should have, there was just too much. And the final thing that I really wasn't that much a fan of was all the battle sequences. There were so many of them, and most of them were just so dull. There were exceptions. There were some pretty epic moments that were very, very cool. But the thing is in general, Sarah J Maas writing battle scenes and action sequences is super hit and miss. It's just not her strength. She is a better writer with interpersonal scenarios. She does pretty well with some political intrigue, but action and battles, like, it's not her best thing. And we got a lot of them in this book, like way more than we needed to have. So I wish that that had been streamlined. I think there is a way to give you a sense of the fact that there's this big war happening and maybe getting select scenes throughout that from certain perspectives, but there was just too much of it. And I actually listened to this one on audiobook. I'm really glad I did, because if I wasn't listening to it on audio, I'm not sure I would have been able to slog my way through all of the battle scenes in this book, guys. Like, there were just so many of them that were so dull, and I was like, okay, can we get through this already and like move back to stuff that's more interesting? Yeah, so like I said, my experience with this was very mixed. There were wonderful moments in it, wonderfully emotional moments, and really cool epic moments. There's a lot to love here. But interspersed with all of this extra material that was unnecessary and too many perspectives. I think I never sat down and counted, but I think I read somewhere that there are like 7 different couples that sounds like it's probably about right. And like they're almost all perspective characters. Like it's too much. Of course, you also see people complaining about the lack of diversity, but I mean, you know, like, at this point, you know what you're getting for that, so that I'm not going to complain too much about, but I understand the complaint that people have with that. Guys, so I don't know. Like, I'm happy I read it. I'm happy with how it concluded the series, but I wish this book was like a third shorter, basically. It definitely could have been like a third shorter, at least. One thing that I did think was pretty fun, for those of you who are fans of the A Court of series, there is a very brief cameo of Farah and Rhys, which was fun. I mean, it wasn't like super important, but it was kind of fun. I was never super worried about most of the characters. Like, people did die, but I don't want to like be too spoilery, but basically I was never too worried about the people that I cared all that much about, basically. And like, you just know she's gonna keep most people alive. Like, which again is fine. And this is the thing. This is why I think that Sarah J Maas works really well as a fantasy romance author, is a lot of the complaints people have about the fact that everybody is always hooking up with somebody else and the stakes are really low. Like, those are really normal things in a fantasy romance. Like, most people don't die. Almost everybody hooks up with somebody else and has a love interest by the end of the book. Like, that's just how it goes in that genre. Now, in high fantasy, which I think is what some people try to think of her as being, that isn't true, but I just don't think she's actually writing high fantasy, and I think she's actually at her best as an author when she's not trying to write high fantasy. I think she's at her best when she's writing fantasy romance, and Kingdom of Ash was trying a little too hard to be high fantasy, and those parts of the book just didn't work super well for me, for the most part. Like I said, there were a couple of pretty cool epic moments, but like, and certainly elements of the ending were a little bit convenient. It's fine, I don't mind that so much. So yeah, it's done. The series is over, guys. It's funny because I just couldn't help thinking, because I read this a month after reading Tower of Dawn, which is the previous book in the series, which I gave 5 stars. It was a great book. And thinking back as to why, there were a lot fewer perspective characters. I think we maybe had four perspective characters, which is a really manageable number. And it was mostly focused on interpersonal relationships and political intrigue. There wasn't a whole lot of action in that book. It was much more character driven, and it was great. It was a fantastic book. I think she does a really good job with relational and character driven books. This was trying really hard to be a war novel. I understand that she sort of wrote herself into a corner with that to some extent, but I do think that this could have been significantly cut down, and the battle scenes, instead of trying to write these so many detailed battle scenes, it could have been done so that we got a sense of what was happening without having to actually be there for all of it. So yeah. All right, there you go. Those are my thoughts on Kingdom of Ash. It was a mixed experience, guys, but I am happy that I read it, and I'm happy that the series is now over. Talk to me in the comments down below. Let me know any of your thoughts or feelings if you guys have read this, and if so, how you felt about it. I have seen some scathing reviews, and I have seen some very, very high praise for this book and for the series. I fall somewhere in the middle. I didn't hate it, but I did think it had some significant issues, and I just couldn't give it more than 3.5 stars, unfortunately. Like I said, talk to me in the comments down below. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.